Ladies and gentlemen, there will come a moment in every life where the question rises not just from the lips, but from the soul. Why did they hurt me? Why was I abandoned, betrayed, lied to, broken, forgotten? And when that question echoes without an answer, it can feel like God is silent. But listen closely, and you will discover that silence is not the absence of a reply. It is the presence of a lesson still unfolding. You were not hurt to be destroyed. You were hurt to be discovered, to find out who you truly are when everything around you collapses. God did not let them hurt you because he had forsaken you. He let them hurt you because he saw in you something that required fire, pressure, and pain to bring it out. Gold must be refined. Diamonds must be cut. Warriors must be tested. And destinies must be awakened. When you were hurting, you may have thought you were being buried, but you were actually being planted. And what's the difference between being buried and being planted? Intention. Buried is the end. Planted is the beginning. The darkness you faced wasn't your grave. It was your greenhouse. The tears you cried were watering the soil of your soul, preparing you for a growth you couldn't yet imagine. You see, there is a divine law that governs all life. A law that says growth does not occur in comfort. The pain, the betrayal, the abandonment, it was the storm that shook loose your false identity. It was the storm that revealed who was never meant to walk with you, so your destiny could breathe without suffocation. You thought you needed their love, but you didn't. You needed the lesson. You needed the separation to ignite your transformation. Some of the greatest leaders, inventors, healers, and world changers in history were first broken by the hands of others. But those hands could not stop the divine hand behind the scenes. That hand was molding you in the shadows. Every insult, sandpaper for your humility. Every betrayal, fuel for your fire. Every tear, evidence that your heart still works. And a working heart is more powerful than a hardened one. They hurt you because they didn't see your value, or maybe they did, and tried to crush it before it could bloom. But either way, their actions were not a reflection of your worth. They were a reflection of their limitation, and God allowed it, not to teach them a lesson, but to teach you how to rise when others fall, how to stand when others break, how to lead when others run. When you were misunderstood, it was so you'd learn not to seek validation from man, but direction from purpose. When you were alone, it was so you'd hear the still, small voice inside you, the one that had been drowned out by noise and comfort for too long. That voice is your true compass. That voice doesn't lie. That voice says you were born for something more. You may not understand the hurt now, and you may never fully understand it on this side of eternity, but understand this: God does not waste pain, not a single drop. The very people who thought they were destroying you were actually participating, unknowingly, in your refinement. Without realizing it, they became part of your awakening. This life is not always fair, but it is always just. Justice doesn't always come with revenge. It comes with revelation. One day, you will look back and realize that if it weren't for the people who tried to break you, you would have never discovered the parts of yourself that were unshakable. You would have never learned to fight for your voice, your vision, your future. And most of all, you would have never learned that your faith was not built on what others gave you, but on what no one could take away. So let them say what they said. Let them do what they did. Let them walk away, lie, laugh, mock, and ignore. Because what they didn't know is that while they were hurting you, heaven was sharpening you. And now your scars are your stripes. Your story is your strength. And your survival is your testimony. You're not who you were before they hurt you. You're better, stronger, wiser, and more dangerous to fear and doubt than you've ever been. They thought they were writing your ending, but God was just turning the page. Keep walking, keep believing, because the same God who allowed the storm is the God who commands the wind to calm. And when the time comes, you won't just rise, you'll soar. Pain is never just pain. It carries within it a hidden seed, a divine intention, a quiet whisper from something greater than ourselves. And though it may not seem like it when you're deep in the valley, that pain is not there to break you. It is there to build you. We live in a world that often teaches us to avoid discomfort, to fear failure, to run from anything that doesn't feel good. But growth never comes from what feels easy. In fact, the most meaningful breakthroughs often come from the most brutal breakdowns. That pain you felt, it wasn't pointless. It was the beginning of something sacred. There are things inside you that cannot be accessed without adversity. Courage, for example, isn't something you discover when everything is calm. It's born in the chaos, in the fight, in the sleepless nights where your soul is wrestling with the reality of disappointment, and still you choose to rise. That's not weakness. That's power in motion. That's purpose being carved into your character. The pain is not the destination, it's the doorway. And only those who walk through it can truly understand the strength they carry. You were not hurt to stay hurt. You were hurt so something new could grow inside you: empathy, compassion, grit, vision. These things don't come from textbooks or advice. They come from living through the fire. They come from sitting with the wound long enough to hear what it's teaching you. And it always teaches something, if you're willing to listen. Maybe it taught you how to protect your peace. Maybe it taught you what real love should and shouldn't look like. Maybe it exposed the limits of your environment so you could reach beyond it. Either way, it planted a seed, and that seed is waiting to be watered by your belief, by your resilience, by your refusal to let pain be the period at the end of your story. Because what if, just what if, the pain wasn't punishment, but positioning? What if it was heaven's way of getting your attention, of waking you up to the truth that you were made for more than comfort, more than approval, more than survival? What if the pain was actually planting the roots of your purpose deep beneath the surface, so that when you rise, you don't just rise temporarily, you rise unshakable. Don't resent the pain. Respect it. Don't run from it. Learn from it. Because one day, the very thing that tried to break you will be the reason someone else finds hope. One day, your story will be someone else's survival guide, and you'll understand that seed of pain was never meant to end you. It was meant to elevate you. Nothing worth building ever rises without resistance. Every dream you've ever held in your heart will meet opposition. Not because the dream is wrong, but because growth demands it. Opposition is not your enemy. It's your confirmation. It's the evidence that you are moving, shaking, disturbing the comfort zones of fear, doubt, and limitation. Without resistance, a muscle doesn't grow. Without tension, a bridge doesn't hold. Without darkness, light has no purpose. This is the law of opposition. Every step forward will test your commitment, and every elevation will require you to overcome something pulling you down. People often ask why it gets harder when they start healing, rebuilding, or chasing something better. But the answer is simple. Opposition meets you at the threshold of change. When you were standing still, the resistance didn't show up because you weren't a threat. But the moment you decided to evolve, the moment you dared to break the cycle, the opposition arrived like clockwork. It comes in many forms: people who doubt you, voices that criticize, circumstances that seem perfectly timed to discourage you. But none of it is proof that you're off track. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's the law at work. You cannot break through anything without pressure. You cannot become who you're meant to be without friction. This law governs more than just your external battles. It applies to the war within. The doubts you feel, the urge to give up, the fear that whispers you're not enough, all of it rises up when you're closest to growth. And here's the truth. If you wait for things to be easy before you move, you'll wait your whole life. Ease is not the path of greatness. Struggle is the fire where purpose is forged. There's a reason trees grow stronger against the wind. They dig their roots deeper to survive. And so must you. Let the opposition deepen your resolve. Let it push you into focus. Let it be the mirror that reflects how badly you really want what you say you want. If it were easy, everyone would rise. But it's not meant for everyone. It's meant for those who understand that pressure doesn't mean stop. It means prepare. You may feel like the forces against you are bigger than the strength within you. But the presence of resistance does not mean you're weak. It means the process is working. No diamond is formed without pressure. No mountain is climbed without struggle. No breakthrough ever came without first walking through the wall of fear. And in time, you'll begin to see opposition not as punishment, but as partnership. It's shaping you. It's stretching you. It's making you ready for a level that requires more than what you've been. You are not being stopped. You are being strengthened. You are being made into someone who can carry what's waiting on the other side. So when resistance shows up, don't panic. Don't run. Stand your ground. Lean into the law. Let it mold you into the version of yourself that no opposition can touch. What happens to you is never as important as how you respond. Life will throw its storms, and people will hurt you, disappoint you, betray you, leave you questioning your worth and your direction. But here's the truth that most overlook: your reaction is the real test. That's where your power lives. That's where your future is written. Not in the event, but in the response. Because while you can't always control what life gives, you have full authority over what you give back. You can't stop someone from walking away. You can't erase what they said. You can't change the past. But you can choose to rise differently. You can decide that what hurt you won't define you. You can determine that your identity is not built on someone else's treatment of you, but on your response to it. That response is where character is born. That response is what separates the wounded from the warrior. The truth is, you will be tested, not just by what people do to you, but by what you choose to do with it. Will you let bitterness take root? Will you let fear make decisions? Will you let your anger become your voice? Or will you rise with clarity, with patience, with strength that doesn't need revenge to prove it's strong? That's the harder road, but that's the higher road. It's easy to react with emotion. It's easy to let the pain speak for you. But the real test is choosing peace when you could choose chaos, choosing growth when you could choose to stay wounded, choosing to move forward instead of staying stuck in cycles of blame and regret. That's maturity. That's power. That's wisdom being born out of experience. People will try to define you by what happened to you, but life defines you by how you handled it. Your reaction is what turns pain into power. It's what transforms wounds into wisdom. It's what proves that you are not what you've been through. You are what you've overcome. And the moment you realize that, you begin to see the past not as your prison, but as your platform. Every reaction you choose either builds your future or delays it. It's not about being perfect. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to feel it. You're human. But don't let that moment of emotion become a lifestyle of limitation. Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary pain. Feel it. Process it. Then move with intention, not impulse. Because the world isn't watching to see if life hits you. It's watching to see what you'll do when it does. That's where leadership is born. That's where legacy is shaped. Not in the easy moments, but in the ones that demand everything from you and still ask for more. And when you choose a reaction that reflects your vision instead of your pain, you pass the test. So if you're in the storm right now, if someone hurt you, if life caught you off guard, pause, breathe. Don't let them write your next chapter with their actions. Take the pen back. Choose your reaction with wisdom, with faith, and with the full knowledge that this test is not meant to break you, but to build you into someone unstoppable. There are parts of you that only pain can uncover. Strengths you never knew you had. Depths you never knew existed. Hurt has a strange way of tearing off everything superficial, everything convenient, everything you thought made you whole, until all that's left is raw, real, and undeniably you. And it's in that place, in that vulnerable silence where the noise of comfort once lived, that your hidden power begins to speak. Hurt reveals what you're made of. Not in the moment it strikes, but in the moments that follow. When the phone stops ringing, when the apology never comes, when the people you trusted become the reasons you question trust at all. That's where the shift happens. That's when you realize your healing isn't dependent on them. It's your responsibility. And in the act of choosing to heal, even while the wound is still fresh, you discover a strength that doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. You'll never know how powerful you are until you've had to carry pain you didn't deserve, until you've had to walk through seasons you didn't choose, until you've had to rise on days when getting out of bed felt like a mountain. That's where resilience is born, not in the applause, not in the victories, but in the silence of your own struggle, in the moments no one sees when you wipe your tears and still show up for your life. Sometimes pain breaks your heart wide open, not to destroy it, but to expand it. You gain compassion. You start to see others differently. You understand what it means to suffer, so you learn how to stand for those who can't stand for themselves. Hurt doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you more human, more aware, more capable of loving deeply, leading wisely, and living intentionally. And yet, most people miss it. They get stuck in the story of the hurt, replaying the betrayal, holding on to the bitterness. But the hurt isn't the final destination. It's the key to unlocking a version of you that comfort would never introduce you to. Pain introduces you to your own endurance, to your own fight, to the wisdom that only scars can teach. When you look back on the moments that hurt the most, you may not remember every detail, but you'll remember who you became. Maybe you learned how to speak up. Maybe you learned how to let go. Maybe you stopped begging for love and started building it within. Whatever it was, it changed you, and that change was the gift. No one asks for pain, but no one walks through it untouched. And if you choose to face it, feel it, and grow through it, you will find that your hurt didn't make you weaker. It uncovered the warrior within. A warrior who doesn't just survive, but thrives. A warrior who turns pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom, and hardship into healing for others. So if you've been hurt, don't just ask, "Why did this happen to me?" Ask, "What is this revealing in me?" Because somewhere in the ashes of your pain lies a strength you never imagined. And that strength, once awakened, is unstoppable. There is a painful silence that comes when you pray, hope, work, and wait, and nothing seems to move. You look around and others seem to be getting what you're asking for. They're receiving the answers you've been pleading for. And in those quiet spaces, it's easy to believe that delay is denial, that maybe you were wrong, that maybe you're forgotten. But just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Divine delay is not divine denial. It's preparation. It's protection. It's purpose working behind the scenes in ways your eyes can't yet see. We live in a world of instant results and constant comparison. If it doesn't happen fast, we assume it won't happen at all. But divine timing doesn't operate on human clocks. What you call waiting might actually be growing. What you call nothing might be everything shifting, aligning, strengthening beneath the surface. Seeds don't sprout the moment you plant them. They break, they push through darkness, they stretch unseen. Only later does the world see what was already taking root. You may not realize it now, but sometimes the very thing you're praying for could hurt you if it came too soon. Sometimes the door you want to open leads to a room you're not ready to walk into. Divine delay isn't punishment. It's God's mercy wrapped in time. It's a delay not to deprive you, but to develop you. Because the blessing means little if you don't have the maturity, strength, or clarity to carry it. Think about it. How many times in your life have you been thankful for what didn't work out? How many? No's turned out to be redirections. How many closed doors saved you from walking into situations that would have stolen your peace or your purpose? If you look closely, you'll start to see a pattern. Delay doesn't mean forgotten. It means you are being positioned. And during the delay, something sacred happens inside you. You learn patience, not the passive kind, but the powerful kind that keeps showing up, keeps believing, keeps preparing even when there's no sign of progress. You develop resilience. You build the kind of faith that can't be shaken by temporary disappointment. You shift from demanding answers to trusting the process. Waiting will always test your mindset. It will challenge what you believe about yourself, about your future, about the one who holds it. But that's the point. Delay refines your belief system. It exposes whether you're chasing the result or becoming the kind of person who can sustain it. because it's not just about receiving, it's about becoming. So don't curse the delay. Don't rush what needs time to mature. Don't mistake silence for absence. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not on the way. Keep moving, keep building, keep becoming. The delay is not the end. It's the sacred space before something greater than you imagined is revealed. And when it comes, you'll understand why it took time. You weren't being denied. You were being destined. There is a powerful moment in life when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What can I build from this?" That's the moment a victim becomes a visionary. It doesn't mean you pretend the pain didn't happen. It means you stop letting it define the boundaries of your future. You see, anyone can live in reaction. Anyone can stay stuck in the story of what went wrong. But not everyone chooses to turn their wounds into wisdom, their setbacks into strategy, and their losses into lessons. That's not denial, that's transformation. When you've been hurt, betrayed, overlooked, or broken, it's tempting to wrap your identity around the experience, to live from that space of pain and call it truth. But the truth is deeper than your trauma. Your past may have shaped your story, but it doesn't get to write the ending, not unless you let it. You are more than what they did. You are more than what you lost. The visionary inside you doesn't ignore what happened. They use it. They take the ashes and start laying the foundation for something greater. The victim mindset says, "This happened to me, so I can't." But the visionary mindset says, "This happened to me, so I must. I must rise. I must create. I must live in a way that proves my pain didn't have the final word." That doesn't mean the journey is easy. Visionaries are forged through fire. They are made in the moments when giving up seems like the most reasonable choice. But they refuse. They see something greater ahead, even when the present feels like chaos. You don't need perfect conditions to become powerful. You need vision. Vision that sees beyond the betrayal, the disappointment, the heartbreak. Vision that says, "I am not staying here." And it's not about pretending you're unaffected. It's about being unwilling to stay broken. Visionaries learn how to take responsibility, not for what happened, but for what happens next. That's where your authority is. That's where your freedom lies. Because once you decide to stop waiting for the apology that may never come, once you stop needing validation from people who couldn't see your value, you get your power back. And in that power, you begin to build. Maybe you start a business. Maybe you mentor others. Maybe you write, speak, serve, lead. Whatever you do, it comes from a deeper place now, a place of clarity and calling. You no longer need pity. You've tapped into purpose. From victim to visionary is not just a shift in mindset. It's a revolution in your spirit. It's a declaration that your life will no longer be lived in reaction to the past, but in pursuit of the future you were born to create. And when others see what you've built, not in spite of your pain, but because of it, they'll understand you didn't just survive. You evolved. You led. You became the proof that pain can become power if you let vision lead. In the end, everything you've walked through, every betrayal, every setback, every silent season, every moment of deep pain, was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of something greater being born in you. The delays, the opposition, the hurt, and the heaviness were never there to destroy you. They were shaping you, revealing the strength you didn't know you had, and calling forth the purpose buried deep within your soul. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to do with what happened. Whether you were pushed down, left out, misunderstood, or mistreated, you still have the authority to rise. You have the power to turn your pain into purpose, your waiting into preparation, and your hurt into healing, not just for yourself, but for others who are watching, wondering if they, too, can make it through. And the answer is yes, you can. Because the same fire that tried to consume you can be the fire that refines you. You are not a victim of your past. You are the visionary of your future. Every scar is a sign you survived. Every delay is proof that something better is being built. Every moment of resistance has trained you to stand stronger. And every reaction, every response, Every decision you make from this moment forward is a step toward who you were truly meant to become. So walk forward, not in fear, not in shame, but in faith. Your story isn't over. It's just getting started. Let the world see what pain turned into power looks like. Let them see what grace in motion really is, because you were never just meant to survive. You were meant to lead.